Hey, welcome to another episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast, the most explosive show on the planet. This is the show where we help you upgrade your life personally and professionally. We've had some of the world's best on the show, and our next guest is nothing short of that. His name is John, I'm calling him Hope Dealer Bryant. He is phenomenal, a real estate powerhouse, and a financial literacy obsessed expert pouring back into the community. Welcome to the show and welcome home, my friend.
My pleasure. Honored to be with you.
John, for our listeners and our audience and our YouTube and all that, who is John Hope Bryant?
I mean, I'm God's child. I'm God's child, and I'm introduced to the world by Juanita Smith, my mother, and my dad, Johnny Will Smith, and I'm trying to unleash untapped human potential at scale for all of God's children, like I have the opportunity to do, to go from the bottom quartile, one of the worst zip codes in America based on credit score and income and wealth, and trying to go to the top of the mountain, where I was able to go to the 0.01% of opportunity in this country. And I want that for everybody else. So I've created an entire enterprise in my adult life that seeks to unleash untapped human potential at scale. That is economic plumbing, Operation Hope. The end of my philanthropy, Operation Hope is the largest economic plumbing for Black and brown folks and underserved folks, including poor whites, in the country. 1,500 offices in 42 states, and with the goal of creating 2 to 3% of GDP in this country sustainably by taking the bottom third and making them capitalists, giving them the tools to come up the ladder and to succeed at scale. So that's really what I'm about. Good capitalism is what I call it. Doing well by doing good at scale is what I'm about, or at least what I try to be about.
I like that. What would you say about attaching your self-worth to your net worth? Because we talk a lot about inner confidence. You talk tons about, hey, being confident and having self-worth. They're two different things. In the community, wearing your assets on your butt, on your ears, around your neck, is just not doing it. So how important is self-worth? I want to kind of quote somebody, Montel Jordan, who's been on this show. This is how we do it. He says, what you do is not necessarily who you are. And if you attach that too close, it could become very dangerous. What would you say to that?
Well, I mean, of course he's right, but then Hollywood is the place he's actually made his name from, is actually built on that exact philosophy. You go to Hollywood, and Hollywood was created, celebrity was created in response to America coming from England. Well, of course, Africans got on the wrong boat. That's a different thing. But traditional American story of those coming from England creating this new outpost. America didn't want the royalty. They didn't want the blue blood. They didn't want, well, you're automatically successful if you're part of this family. You have this bloodline, and if you're not part of that class system, then you'll never be successful from the bottom to the top. So America created celebrity, for which Montel is one. He's done a great job. America created celebrity in direct response to rejecting royalty. And literally, celebrities can come from the bottom to the top, but they reinvent themselves as they do it. So they created a new class system. If you could be a little girl from the Midwest and come in and change your hair and a few other things. Now, all of a sudden, you're Marilyn Monroe. That's literally true. So you have a different name, you have a different image, you have a different brand, you have a different look. Maybe you change your body, and now you're performing for the world as an empty cup. Some of the best actors, some of the best performers, entertainers have the lowest self-esteem. Some of them. Because in order to be great, I know I used to be an actor, but I was really not a good one because I really liked who I was. I didn't fully know who I was, but whoever I was becoming, I liked that person. And more importantly, I respected them more than I even liked them. I'd rather respect me and learn to like me than like me and never respect me. And so I knew that whoever I was evolving to, God made this person to be unique. And so if you have a full cup and in order to be a great actor, you got to empty the cup and fill the cup with the role. I would only empty the cup 20% because I really liked 80% of what I had. Well, that meant I was going to be a crappy actor because I'm not convincing you in the role. I'm not convincing. So the very thing that Montel's talking about, which is Hollywood, traditional Hollywood of performing, whether you're on a stage singing or you're on a stage acting, the best of those individuals oftentimes are troubled personalities. It doesn't seem that Montel has that problem. My brother Stevie Wonder doesn't have that problem. There's a lot of great actors who don't have that problem. Denzel Washington doesn't appear to have that problem. Oprah Winfrey does not have that problem. But I think those are great exceptions to the rules. yes, he's right, but it also is counterculture to Instagram, TikTok,
Mm-hmm.
Facebook. I mean, the very nature, you get to be born, you get to be perfect twice. When you're born and you meet somebody for the first time. And when folks are introducing themselves to this new version of celebrity, which I believe we're now experiencing now with social media, digital media, and the internet. I mean, people call me an internet celebrity. When I walk down the street to go to restaurants or airports, I get stopped all the time. You're an internet celebrity. I had no idea what they were talking about. But, in some ways, YouTube's a new TV, at least for this
Mm,
generation of young people. My nephew says that he doesn't even watch traditional TV. He watches YouTube. His whole generation
yep.
watches YouTube. They think that's TV. So you have this new generation of celebrity, but they're using the same old model of I'm going to fake it and act like somebody I'm not, and you figure out what's the truth and what's not. Whereas at least with the past 1.0 version of celebrity or 2.0 version of celebrity, they told you this is acting, this is not real, this is a movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making it very clear this is not me. Now, when you meet me in the streets, you can decide whether I'm like that role or not. And I guess if I'm completely not like that role, that makes me a great actor. But what you have now is a merging of the two in Celebrity 2.0 or Celebrity 3.0, whatever version you want to talk about, where reality and faking it are often the same. And that
Mm-hmm.
often ties into a direct correlation to low self-esteem. Because now I don't want to claim me at all in this new
Yeah.
iteration. I don't like me. I don't respect me. I don't want me. I want complete. I'm gonna change my booty, my breasts, my pinky
Yeah.
toe, my hair,
It.
my
Yep.
lips, the way I talk, the way I walk, the way I saw. I mean, why are women walking around saying bro, 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 bro? Why is a woman? Why is a guy calling a woman a bro? Why is a
Mm.
why is a woman calling another woman a b? I mean, these are just become normal vernaculars, and it's crazy to me. But these are, this is what you call cool. I guess some people call it cool. I think making smart sexy is cool. It's a whole other thing. I think we're trying to redefine in this conversation like we're having now. We're trying to give people the courage. I said all that to say this. We're trying to now give this generation the courage to redefine cool. To
Could
redefine.
we also could we also, sorry to interject, but could we also say that people are rehearsing to show up as themselves?
I don't think they're rehearsing to show up themselves. I think they're rehearsing to show up as somebody else who's popular. I
Mm.
don't think we're anywhere close to people rehearsing. I mean, it's a very nice spiritual thing, as you said. It's very aspirational.
Mm-hmm.
There's no data to back that up. There's no, if you look at anything that's going on in popular culture, it's the exact opposite of what you said.
Mm-hmm.
That folks are just lying, filing. I mean, it's the INGs that are killing us,
Sure.
shopping,
Sure.
drinking, flossing, acting, texting, sexting, you know. I mean, all the INGs are killing us, oversleeping, and anything in balance. I think it's cool. Look, I have a nice watch on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I like a nice watch, but you don't see me like flossed out. You don't see me with 15 chain. I have one chain on. And it's under, by the way, it's during business, so it's underneath my t-shirt. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
want you to see me. I want you to see my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to, when I show up, when I show up in a conference room, I don't use 20 words when two will do.
Mm-hmm. Less is more.
When I show up in a conference room, I'm gonna beat you up from the shoulders up, the neck up.
Tell me about your cuffs and everything you wear on your right wrist. I noticed this about you. To me, I think it's very intentional. Nobody really asks you about that, but I mean, you're stacked up there.
Mm.
Is there a meaning behind that?
Oh, it's very intentional. And I took one off because it was too tight this morning. This is Africa. This is handmade in either Ghana or Kenya by Africans. But the braces I wear all the time, that's Mandela's prison number. And this was given to me by Quincy. This was given to me by the Nelson Mandela Foundation. They don't make them anymore. So that's a collector's item. That's Mandela's prison number. This is given to me by Quincy Jones, dear friend, God rest his soul. Those are all the religions in the world. And what people don't know is that Jesus is mentioned in every one of those religions. So Jesus was not some fabled, made up Instagram story. He lived, he was real. In fact, Jesus is mentioned more in the Quran than he is in the Bible. But all the religions mention Jesus. They just put a different role on him. But God, of course, does not have a self-esteem problem. So you can call him whatever you want, but he only answers to one name. And that is really what I want us to do. It's not what you call me, it's what I answer to that's important. And never, ever, ever answer out of your name. To argue with a fool proves there are two. We end up getting up in a bunch of fights about stupid stuff, and people lose their lives defending stupidity with a stupid person they're arguing with. Just again, this is low self-esteem. If you had high self-esteem, you say, "Are you done? You finished?" You screamed,
Mm-hmm.
hollered, you did all that. You threw a chair. I'm just standing here. You okay? You're done because I'm done. I was done before you started. Do you need some help? You need a hug? You know.
Yeah, yeah.
Not 1 ounce of my self-esteem depends on your acceptance of me. It's not what you call me, it's what I answer to that's important. It's okay if you don't like me, I like me. It's self-esteem, true self-esteem, has nothing to do with ego and flossing and all that kind of stuff, but you've got to know yourself so that one of the reasons that I accepted your gracious and kind offer, we didn't know each other, but my vibe on you is that while I don't know you, you seem to have been raised in an environment where you were told you were loved. And that inspired confidence in you, and you have a sense of self-dignity and self-respect, and you flow in a certain precise kind of a way. And I wanted to amplify that role model for other Black men who are trying to figure out who they want to be. So whenever I have a chance to help amplify making smart sexy, making smart schools, and folks want to stay in school, they want to aspire legally, they want to win this game and be gangster legally and be the top of their game, be the GOATs in their field, then I try to find ways to amplify that. Because the book, The Tipping Point, Malcolm Gladwell, the author, University of Illinois study proved that if 5% of role models, positive role models, every community stabilizes. 5%, not 50%. This is how powerful God is. Not 50%, not 75%, not 30%, just 5% of positive role models in every community stabilizes. That's the tail wagging the dog. And conversely, evil is so weak, fear is such a punk, the devil is such a punk that they need 95% of negative things to crater hope. 95% in order to crater a society. You only need 5% or more to stabilize a society. God gave the devil permission to exist. The devil's a fallen angel. He's a punk. He's nothing. Lucifer's a punk. So if you realize that the world's made of light and dark, and light defines darkness,
Mm-hmm.
if you realize that badness is failed goodness, then you begin to say, I want to become enlightened. I want to find the light, and I want to sit down in it, and I want to become myself. And once you become yourself, you have the potential of becoming an iconic, singular figure. Michael Jackson, there's only one of them. Prince, there's only one of them. Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Dr. Dorothy Height, Coretta Scott King, wherever your hero, Oprah. I mean, the only person in the world, one name. I mean, she's a friend. One name in the world. You just mentioned Oprah. Everybody knows who you're talking about. And she lives life by her own rules. She has not contorted herself to be someone else. And she's won in the game of capitalism, won in the game of spirituality, but most importantly, she won in the game of herself. Bishop T.D. Jakes is another dear friend of mine. Charlemagne, another good brother. Van Jones, another good brother. Don Peoples, the businessman. Robert F. Smith, another friend, another good brother. Killer Mike, another good brother. T.I., the real T.I., the guy I know, who's not just the entertainer, but who's a multifaceted business, who likes to have deep conversations.
Yes.
Who's trying to raise his children, who loves his kids enough to curse them out. Go sit yourself down over there and stop all that. So look, I think that we've got to create a true north. We got to signal this stuff over here. It's cool. Enjoy it. Have a moment. That's not real. And the world's changed in such a way that you can't play the old games like you used to. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
Nobody's coming to save you.
100%. Your mom, I mean, my goodness, she told you she loved you, poured confidence in you. Impactful was that on your life growing up to have that self-esteem? My mom, I connect with you on that because, I mean, unlike my mom died when I was raised by a single mom. She died when I was 13. And I got the $13. I brought the hair clipper on our interview today because at 13 I taught myself how to cut my own hair.
There you go.
And I saved the money from every haircut from 13 to 18 and used it as a down payment for the first property I ever bought. And so I call it the $13 haircut because, if you want it, it's there for you. And so you talk about your mom a ton. I've commented on some of your posts for that too, and you reply back. But yeah, I want to talk about that. How important was your mom in your self-esteem and where you are now?
My mother was and remained everything. My dad gave me a sense of, yes, I can. Johnny Will Smith. He was a businessman. His father, R.B. Smith, was a sharecropper. My second great grandfather was a slave who fought in the Union Army as part of the Emancipation Proclamation and defended Memphis. That's where I get my social justice bones and can't do it bones. But I think my mother had more of an impact because she gave me a sense of, yes, I am. My dad gave me a sense of, yes, I can. My mother gave me a great sense of, yes, I am. Rainbows after storms. No one told her that she could. No one told her that they loved her. Her mother was so busy hustling and working and trying to be a strong Black woman in East St. Louis that I think she forgot to tell her daughters that they were jewels, they were princesses, that she loved them. She showed them that she loved them. She didn't tell them. So my mother always felt a little deficit because of that. Her mom didn't tell her that she was loved. She did not have a good relationship with her father. My mother's father, passed away at an early age, and there was a other man who came and went in life, and men came and went in my mother's life, not her own doing. They just didn't show up ready for prime time, and she wasn't playing with part time. My mother said I can do bad all by myself. So my mother told me she loved me every day of my life. And so one of my quotes I use at Operation Hope is there's a difference between being broke and being poor. Being broke is economic, but being poor is a disabling frame of mind. It's a depressed condition of your spirit, and you must vow never, ever, ever to be poor again. And that sense of esteem, I had other problems growing up, but basic self-esteem, knowing that I was somebody. I had no social graces growing up. I had no social coolness, no social vibe. I was awkward for a very long time, which I know people find hard to believe. People think that I'm this social butterfly. That nothing could be further from the truth.
No, I think you're introverted. I think you're a savage servant is what I think, but we'll talk about that later. Sorry.
Well, that's a good read. So yeah, my mother told me she loved me, and it worked. I believed it. So I don't believe that we're human beings. I don't believe that we are human beings having a spiritual experience. I think we're spiritual beings having a human experience. So I say that because my mother, who was promoted, your mother, who was promoted, gone on a better place spiritually, even though we can't interact with them physically, my mother's still very much with me. There was a calmness my mother had. She had a lot of anxiety about life, but there was a calmness with which she dealt with all that. I don't have an anxiety about life, but I wasn't calm. And
I like that. I like
when
that.
she passed away, it's as if she gave me her calmness.
Whoa.
So now I don't have anxiety about life, and I'm calm. So it's a
John, do you have any kids? Are you a dad? I was trying to figure this out. Do you have kids?
I'm a surrogate uncle dad.
Okay.
My wife and I, Shadra, have her twin brother passed away a decade or so ago. And she made a promise to him if something ever happened to him, she would take care and raise his son. And so we have raised him, as if he was ours. And he's about to go do his own thing. So because she deferred, I deferred, and I'm a godfather. I'm a spiritual father to it seems countless young people who've sort of adopted
Well, you're
me.
a financial father to many. I mean, you're out there doing great work. Have you ever thought about? I'm big on the mom thing because you talk about it all the time, and it's such an impactful thing. And again, I think even brothers and stuff like that. This is one thing. If you meet somebody from the street or whatever, there's this front that's happening, and I'm like, listen, the more vulnerable somebody is, the more strong they are. Vulnerability is an assassin. It's like a creative outlaw value assassin. And so hearing somebody like you that's transparent in their feeling, talking about, you talk about IQ stuff, tons, very, very practical, tactical, but you also talk a lot about emotional intelligence, which I think is just as, if not more important, right? Do you ever think, I'm a dad, I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old.
Beautiful.
And I think about, I tell my kids all the time, like I probably share one story about my mom a day. And it just comes up, and it's almost like I see the genius she had as I get a little bit older.
Yep.
Do you ever feel that way with your mom?
Of course. You look, you're gonna hate your mother in real time. I mean, I did not like my mother or my father when I was growing up. I thought my dad was a jerk, and I thought my mother was unkind. What I didn't realize was they were like, my dad was saying boundless within boundaries, and my mother was saying within these boundaries, I'm gonna turn you into a man. And if you go out of these boundaries, you need to fear me more than you fear the streets, so that you stay within this boundary box. And she was basically saying, I don't care. I'm not trying to be your best friend. I'm not trying to be your buddy. I'm your mother. And again, as I said earlier, I'd rather you respect me and learn to like me than like me and never respect me. And there's too many parents today. Sorry, there's too many people having children who say I'm a baby daddy or a baby mama, but not a father or a mother or parents. And this is not a trinket you've got. This is not a toy that you're playing with. It's not even yours. It's God's child, and you're just the trustee. You're the steward, and your job is to raise this child with the yin and the yang and all the tools they need in order to compete in society and go be successful, and to make sure they have what they need. And if you don't do that, you're failing the matriculation exam as a parent. You're not doing the work because God can't come and raise a child himself. I'll just say him because it's him and her, but God can't come raise a child themselves. So God needs you to surrogacy that activity, and you got to not be a jerk about it. You can't raise your child by email. You can't say yo, I'm out partying all the time. Then if you're doing it, what do you expect is going to happen with your kid? Watch how you live your life. It may be the only Bible that anybody else reads. So I did not like my mother or my dad growing up. As I got older, I ended up respecting my dad and liking my mother more. And then as an adult, I then treasured my mother and admired my father more. And now I am continually stunned every day at the genius and the quiet strength of my mother, and I am sad at the missed opportunity for my father. My dad was the hustler. He was a businessman, and he thought that was all that you needed. My mother worked an hourly job for 32 years. My mother ended up with $1 million net worth when she passed away. My dad was broke when he passed away. I know I took care of him. And my dad's experiment failed. My mother's experiment succeeded. My mother could have taken my dad for everything. We had a gas station, an 8-unit apartment. This just hit me this year. We owned an 8-unit apartment building. We owned a nursery business, cement contracting business. I've already mentioned our own home. We owned a gas station at Vernon in Western Southeast corner in Los Angeles. When my mother left my dad, it's California, community property state. She had 3 kids, one with him. She could have cleaned his clock financially. If she had gone to court, my dad would have had to go get an apartment or something, and she would have had all the assets. And she left. She left with literally the clothes on her back and her 2 children in tow. My oldest brother went to the military. That's gangster. That is a woman saying, I don't need anything but me. And she went and starting from nothing, living with a girlfriend, built a situation where she bought and sold 7 houses, had a pristine financial picture, had stocks, had bonds, had a 401k, had an insurance policy, had a will, and a legacy.
854 credit score? 854? Was it 854?
Back when it went that high.
There we go. There we
Very
go.
good research, yeah.
Okay, I want to ask a question here. I got to get some good nuggets. This is great. What is the most pivotal no you've ever received in your life that you think just shaped your mission, or was just a moment of like maybe disparity in the moment, but looking back, wow.
That hit me. There's been a lot of them, but I love no's. I take no's for vitamins. But
Respect.
The two that hit me, one, I was working for this guy named Harvey Baskin, who was worth $200 million back when that would have been $1 billion. And he owned a restaurant in Malibu called Joffrey's Restaurant, Joffrey's Malibu. I was a waiter. A busboy became a waiter. I was only there to meet important people. I was a really crappy waiter. I impressed Harvey. He let me work for him. I went from working as a waiter to an assistant of Harvey. I'm ear hustling Harvey as he's walking around his beach house getting deals on the phone. I'm ear hustling, trying to listen to how he cut the deal and who he's talking to. And so I kept asking him questions. And finally I said, let me take you to dinner. And he said, well, you gotta take me to the restaurant of my choice. Great. So he picked the restaurant in Venice, California, one of the most expensive restaurants at that time. I drive him in my then Audi, my white Audi. He had broken his foot or something, so he was like driving Miss Daisy. He sat in the back and he had to put his foot up on the passenger seat, which went forward. I didn't really care what it looked like. I've got this guy for 2 hours or 3 hours. It was 45-minute drive from Malibu to Venice, an hour for dinner, 45-minute drive back. I had him for 3 hours. So we show up, go to the restaurant, and the bill comes, and the bill's $100. Might have, think $500 today. And I worked for Harvey, making $20,000 a year. I didn't have that kind of money, not extra. Anyway, bill comes, I slide it to Harvey. It's $100. He slides it back to me. I slide it to Harvey. He slides it back to me. I said, hey, yo, man, look, you're the wealthy dude here. I mean, you know how much I pay? You pay me. I slide it back to him. He stops it. He says, no. He said, look, you got to decide what you want. Do you want to pick my brain or do you want to pick my pocket?
Mm.
One lasts longer. Now you pick, but don't slide that back to me again unless you made a decision. And that no, I'm not, stop. He said, stop. You got to decide what you
Mm.
want. That was incredibly helpful to me. It snapped me in reality. And I realized I just got an invaluable PhD over 2 hours at that point of hanging out with this guy. And I've been peppering him with questions. And and this was a test.
Mm.
So I paid the bill, $100, gave the waiter $20 because that was the tip. And the waiter, it wasn't the waiter's fault that I was broke. And I literally had just enough money to get the gas back to Malibu and get him back home. Harvey, subsequently to that, would put his arms around me at parties and events where I would go. This is my guy. He wouldn't say this is my guy, but the inference was this. I'm vouching for him, and that ripple effect went on. I mean, to this day, frankly, when I was homeless, I rented an office at Doheny and Pico Boulevard, south side of the street, from Kip Morrison of Kip Morrison and Associates. I haven't said this, I don't think, on an interview with the name. And Kip Morrison had a PR firm, and she rented me an office for $300, $400, $500 a month. It was in her office, and I didn't have any place to live because I couldn't pay for the office and rent at the same time. So I gave up my apartment in Van Nuys and lived in my Jeep. And one of the reasons I work 18 hours a day now is I used to get up early from sleeping in my Jeep at La Tijeran Airport. I'd go to the office early. I'd clean up in the bathroom, the restroom at the office, the Kip Morrison Associates, clean my collar of my shirt, clean the cuffs of my shirt, clean my shoes so I look respectable. Everybody would come in. I get there before anybody. I stay later than everybody so they wouldn't see me washing up at the end of the day.
Wow.
And then I would, around midnight or so, drive to La Tijeran Airport to stay in the back of the Montero Jeep. So when I say I work 18 hours today from getting a job, I literally worked 18 hours a day to keep from being de-dignified because I was ashamed that I was homeless, but it created a great work ethic in me, and I was hustling, trying to get out of that situation. And within 6 months, I'd worked my way out of being homeless. But that relationship capital, and Kip Morrison to this day texts me. I'm gonna see her when I go to LA the next time. She's 80 years young or so today. Looks great, and I'm always saying thank you to her for what she did for me. But she wouldn't have trusted me had it not been for Harvey Baskin, who had hired her to do his public relations. Fast forward about 2015, 2016. I was trying to get this guy to be a donor of Operation Hope. A really great guy named Tony Ressler, billionaire. He owns the Atlanta Hawks and Aries Management, which is $400 million, et cetera. I went and I was on the board of one of his companies. And I met him through another friend of his, Michael Arrighetti, who was CEO of Aries and was on my board in my philanthropy. So I targeted Tony. He was the wealthiest guy in the room and a little gruff at that time. People were afraid of him. I wasn't afraid of him. So I asked for an appointment because I wanted $25,000 for my charity. He said, sure. I flew from Atlanta to LA for a 30-minute meeting with no guarantees. And I made my pitch for Operation Hope. And he said, yeah, I'll do that. Just to get you out of my office, I'll do that. What you got? What you got in your other pocket? I said, no, I'm good. That's it. He said, no. He said, no. You can't take money out of my left pocket without talking about putting some money in my right pocket. You're taking the philanthropy. You're a smart guy. What ideas you have in your other pocket? No, we're not having this. We're not stopping this conversation like that. And you're not robbing me. And so I said, well, I got this real estate thing. Well, tell me about it. Blah, 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 blah. Mind you, I've sent him decks and presentations on Operation Hope and financials. I got 25 grand. Probably cost me $4 grand to go there for the meeting and back. I explained this thing, Ryan, and 2 minutes into it, yes, I'm in. You're in for what? I'm going to be a partner in that. I don't need a partner. I've already got a partner. Well, who's your partner? I told him. He said, oh, no, he works for me. Just tell him I'm in for half. So he said, how much do you need? I said, well, about $3 million of equity, $10 million of debt. He said, I'm in for $1.5 million of the equity and we'll help with the debt. So I walked out of there, and because I listened to his no and pivoted and was able to answer his question, I walked out of there with 25 grand and 1.5 million of capital in a business. Now, I learned a very valuable lesson there, several. Even if you want to distribute money like a socialist, you have to first collect it like a capitalist.
Big,
And he was going to
massive.
like me because of my philanthropic work, but he respected me if I could make money and build wealth and free enterprise. It was a test.
Mm.
And so I left there, and within a week, we had a conference call, me and him and Michael Arrighetti. And Tony said, you know, and I really thank Michael because without Michael, I wouldn't have met Tony. Tony says, you know what? I've been thinking about this. It's a great idea that you got. Why do 3 million? We can do 30 million. You really
Wow.
have a great idea. Why do 30 million? You do 130 million. Ran for 130 million.
Wow.
And
Wow.
5 years later, that became a company I sold for $121 million. Was probably 6
Yes.
years later.
Yes.
And so it's the no's, respectful no's, intelligent no's, smart no's, where I was able to, you can't tell me no. You can't tell me no well, you can't tell me no and I'm stupid. That won't work. You can't tell me no. You're not going to judge me. I'm not going to let you. I'm like, I have my dreams and I have my visions. But if you tell me no, that stops me and it introduces me to a wider field of view. If the no is just simply a response to my proposal to you, which was in both of these examples. Now I'm just trying to figure out a better way to get to yes. So success has 1,000 fathers, but failure is a bastard child. So Hank Aaron has a record for the most home runs. He lived around the corner from us, by the way, but he also had the record for the most strikeouts. No one talks about the strikeouts. They just talk about the
Yeah.
home runs. My brother Reggie Jackson, he has a lot of strikeouts. And when I talked about that, they talk about the triple hitter. So people need to become allergic to no's and run right through them to get to the yes. But the yes might be different than the one that you suspect.
What made you get a real? The one thing I love about you, though, as soon as you came on my radar, was you are tried and true. Like, there's a lot of these influencers, a lot of bad information out there, terrible stuff, blah, 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 get rich quick, all the garbage. And you are somebody, brick by brick by brick by brick, and you have the receipt going all the way through on that. For me, I've been an entrepreneur for, since I was 18, 19, always selling services. So to me, I was always like, hey, you're selling air, man. And that's why I got into real estate, because I said, no, I want something boring, hard, and tangible that I just feel like is there. And the marketing and branding person to me, look, if you give me your Ferragamo shoe with your insole because you got flat feet, I know, right? And you say, yo, Ryan, sell me the shoe.
Wearing Ferragamos now.
I got something right here that I'm like, okay, I'm going to figure out how to sell you the shoe. But when you sell a service, it's very different. So why was it real estate for you? Or was that in part to your mom and seeing what your mom did with real estate?
Yeah, it was mom, because grandmother had a shotgun shack in East St. Louis, and mom got her independence when she got that address at 15502 South Fraley. You see, my dad could push her around because he had the house. But when my mother left my dad and stayed with her girlfriend, the first thing she wanted to do was buy a home. And
Smart.
it's interesting, when you own a home, you remember the address. If you don't remember the address, is where you rent it. So 15502 South Fraley in Compton, California, I believe his zip code was 90221. That's embedded in my brain, even though that was 50 years ago, because my mother owned it and it was ours. And then she went from that and used the equity from that to buy another one, and sold it and bought another one, and then used the equity from that to give a down payment to my brother to buy a place, and my sister to buy a place twice. And when I wanted to start a business or whatever somebody would do something, she could pull equity out of her home. And I thought that was gangster. I thought, oh my God. I remember she wanted that lawn cut because it was our house. You always tell where the who owns a house, who's got the lawn cut.
Yes.
I became obsessed with ownership. I always want to own lots of land, and we have 40 acres now at our residence, 40 acres in a Sprinter van, in a county that was a slave county 130 years ago, because rainbows after storms, full circle. That now I'm an owner and no one can change that narrative. That is part of the historical record forever. And I'm going to buy more land. I bought, before this, I had a little mini mansion. Before I had my own gate, I had a gate shared by others. It was still cool. It was still $1 million property, but it was 22 other homes in that area. And all money is freedom, and all financial security is self-determination. The HOA, even though it was a high-end HOA, they could still tell me no cars parked in front of your house. You can't have more than 2 cars in the driveway. 22 homes, gated community, beautiful, $1 million home, but you could still tell me what to do. Now, I didn't like that. So I got my own gate. But before that, I was in a gated community with a townhouse. And now I've got shared walls. Now I can't have a
Mm.
party that's too loud. And now if I want to do something, I got to notify the HOA manager. It's all good, right? But it was just less freedom. I got this very powerful lesson with that townhouse. Actually, I had bought it for $100,000 or so, and I'd moved from there from an apartment to that townhouse. I bought this thing for $220,000. Then the economic crisis hit of 2008 ish. It's interesting how fast you can go from one townhouse to 700 homes, which was my clip of where I ended up with Promise Homes Company. How quickly, once you get the memo, this compounds. And now my next move,
Mm.
which will be announced in about a month or two, will eclipse what I've been doing up until now. And of course, Operation Hope is $4.5 billion invested. All my investment portfolio is about $4.8 billion of capital raised and deployed. But going back to this townhouse.
But John, the nosy person in me wants to know why you can't announce it now. It's in the works.
Yeah, no.
I'm just nosy. I'm just nosy.
Yeah. Uh, yeah.
I love
I'm
that you
glad you're
like
nosy.
nosy though. You never offended
No,
by somebody being nosy though. Like you
yeah.
always smile. You don't really react badly to it. You're like, I respect that.
No, I love nosy. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you listen twice as much as you talk. And I love you're a good journalist, a good media person by asking for the scoop. It'll be out soon. Because of securities reasons, securities laws reasons, and things like that. I can't just go running my mouth about it. Going back to this townhouse, I bought the townhouse for 200,000 and change. It went down to 100,000, whatever, 150, 140, 160, something. And all of my friends were like, "Sell it. You should sell it." And I'm like, I thought to myself, "I like you, but you're broke." Right? That's when I realized if you hang around 9 broke people, you will be the 10th. Like, I love you. There's an old Southern saying, no matter how much I love you, my son or my daughter, if I don't have wisdom, all I can give you is my own ignorance. So out of
Mm.
love, we pass down bad habits from generation to generation sometimes. And so my good, dear, amazing, loving friends gave me really bad advice. Please, I need your listeners to hear that. Good, amazing, wonderful, nice, well-meaning friends is what they didn't know that they didn't know, but they thought they know because none of them owned a house. They were all renting, they were all flossing, they were all trying to get paid, get that dollar, get that bag, get that quick, whatever. I was given a lot of bad advice back then. I was told by a very wealthy guy he was a CEO of a bank who told me I should be a mortgage broker. I should stop doing all that I'm doing. He said, "John, you're a great salesman. Just be a mortgage broker. Just do these deals and get the fee income. Stop trying to build this big conglomerate." And I realized later he meant well. So my friends I'm giving an example were black. This guy was Jewish. And so I'm giving this example that it doesn't matter whether you're black and urban or Jewish and wealthy, it was the same bad advice. My friends gave me bad advice out of good intentions, and this guy gave me good advice out of his good intentions. He saw me as an income producer for him.
Mm.
He wanted me to keep doing that because I was good at it and it benefited him. He liked me as a person. He wasn't trying to hurt me, right? By the way, European white, this happened to me with them too. I can remember another guy. So not, in other words, I mentioned white Jewish, but it doesn't matter. I'm just saying it was equal opportunity pimping on John Bryant
Mm.
because they saw benefit in me or they saw something in me that benefited them. So
Mm.
this guy who went on to sell that bank and get paid, so he sold an asset. Well, my only asset I had was on my ass. All I had was my mouth and the ability to talk a good game, and he wanted the benefit of that. And I decided I did not want to be his performer. I didn't want to rock the mic. I wanted to own it. That's no different than
Mm.
when I had that candy store when I was 9, 10 years old. 10 years old, candy store owner wanted me to sell candy from his counter. This is a brother now, Mr. Max Liquor Store wanted me to sell candy at Max Liquor Store, and he's going to pay me top dollar. I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to sell your candy. I told him I can be your partner. I'll be a joint venture partner at 10 years of age. He laughed at
And
me
you started stacking boxes, man, to learn how much that stuff was going for.
and put him out of
It's
business.
brilliant.
I actually put him out of business, out of the candy business. So back to the story, the townhouse. Did not listen to
And John, we're at 50 minutes. I want to be respectful of your time, just so you know.
I did not listen to that advice. I kept the townhouse. I had to live somewhere. I lived in it for a couple more years, and then I moved to Atlanta and rented it out to a police officer who was always late for rent, by the way. And I called in 2015. I wanted to buy another piece of property. I called in 2015 and just so as a broker, a brother, actually, who I knew and respected. I want to make sure a brother got the business. I called this guy and I said, his name is Daniel Lowe. a real estate agent, what can I get for that property? He said, I don't know, about $750,000. I said, excuse me? What did you say? He said, about 750. I said, US currency? And because I needed 750 to go buy another asset. And I had bought it for 200. And last time I checked, it was 100 and some odd dollars. That's the power of real estate. And of course, I sold it. He sold it in a month. With a month later, the transaction was done. And the property that I ended up buying because of that is seven figures, mid seven. I mean, mid seven figures. So real estate. There aren't growing any more land, and the number one way you build wealth in America is home ownership. Black people, in particular, need to over-index on owning a home. 44% of us own a home, compared to 75% of our white counterparts. And the entire tax policy in this country is really designed around home ownership.
John, you got the recipe. I mean, you go from 1 to 700 homes. Okay. One last question. What is the smartest next step to take mentally, financially, if you're scaling a real estate portfolio, let's say from 3 to 5 properties? You got equity and everything. What's your next play? Because I want to know, how the hell do you go from 1 property all the way to 700, right? There's a blueprint that you clearly followed. But if you're talking to a small investor, 3 to 5 properties, and they say, hey, John, I want to make a lifetime of this. I want to really go at this 110%. What would your word of advice be to them?
You want to institutionalize that portfolio as soon as you can. You want to professionalize it, systemize it, get it out of sort of the homeboy shopping network mentality as soon as possible. Stop having cousin Pookie, doing the plumbing, and stop making excuses. Don't rent it out to cousin JoJo who's late for rent. You got to professionalize this. It's a business, right? If you want to give money away in charity, then create a foundation, right? Take the 10% in tithes and offering, or and cut off 2% of that and give it to charity. But define it as that. This is charity, this is a giveaway. But run it like a business. Put it in a limited liability corporation. Put each one of those properties in their own LLCs, limited liability corporations. So if somebody trips and falls on property A, it does not bleed over to property B. If somebody sues property A and B, they're not suing you personally and putting you out of your family home. So create LLCs and then create a master LLC, maybe even a revocable trust. That's check with your tax accountant about that. But you want to put it in you want a corporate structure. You want professional management, property management. You want to get if you can, the same lender for as many of those properties as possible with relationship capital with that lender, prime rates. And you want to use the equity from the first 3 to 5 homes, to then finance to get modest leverage to now buy 3 to 5 more, or at least 2 more. And at a certain point, you're going to get passive income that pays all your expenses and revenues on the properties plus your property taxes, and the passive income, the net passive income is going to float your lifestyle. And now you're making money during the day. You're building wealth in your sleep, because you really want is the appreciation of these properties over time are going to keep going up in value. And if you can, you really should not sell them. Now, I had a different strategy. I had an institutional portfolio. I would buy bulk homes in bulk. I'd buy them 50 at a time and things like that. It was a different approach. Excuse me. And because it was so big, I also had partners like Freddie Mac, lenders like City National Bank and others. And I had partners, investment partners, where the investment partner, the loans had terms on them, maturity dates, and the partners had an expectation that in 5-6 years, I'd like to be out of this. And they had a return hurdle with how much they wanted to make on that. And my job was to get them in, hit my bogey, hit my marks, and get them out as I promised them. And then I can continue on my journey if I wanted to, but I had to keep that commitment. So I had to remove the emotions out of it, right? And so I actually don't, in the short term, actually, oddly enough, it wasn't the best deal for me to get out the way I did in Christmas Eve 2021 with a $121 million deal. The properties were worth much more, but I was investing in the future in a joint venture with the new owners. Now, that actually did not work out the way I wanted it to. I ended up resigning as chairman from the new entity, and I'm a passive investor in the new entity. And God bless them, it's just was not my vision. And so a camel's a horse designed by committee. When you own something, you own those 3 or 5 homes, you have control over how you're going to manage them, how you're going to treat your residents, how you're going to treat vendors, discussions with lenders, all that stuff. The further you get away from that control model, the less control you have. And So I learned some lessons, and I had to tell myself, oh, this is time to stop this model, create a new model. You learn that lesson. You don't want to be Blockbuster. You want to be Netflix. So going back, so you don't just assume that what you're doing is what you should always be doing. Always be open to being nosy, listening, learning. At some point, you want to get to non-recourse debt. So recourse debt is where you personally guarantee it on some level. And you're initially going to have to guarantee those LLCs, those limited liability corporations, to the bank. But you'll get to a point where you have enough credibility and the property portfolio has enough assets value in and of themselves, and the revenue stream has enough seasoning and track record that the bank, who's been with you now for a little while, says, you know what, when it comes to renewal, when you ask for non-recourse debt, which is no personal guarantee, the bank actually will say yes, either on a whole or limited basis. And so, yeah.
Man, I could talk to you forever, but everybody says that to you, John. That's why you charge a lot of money for somebody to talk to you. I appreciate you, man. I think we're at an hour, so I'm gonna let you go. Again, man, it's such a pleasure. Can you tell the people where they can find you, what they can do? Best-selling book, Operation Hope. Give them the whole 9 on what they can do.
Yeah, so go to Operation Hope for a $1,000 financial coaching scholarship worth 12 months. We'll get your credit score up, your debt down, your savings up. Debt down $3,800, savings up $1,200, credit score up 54 points in 6 to 8 months, so that somebody making $48,000 to $50,000 a year can walk into a bank and get a yes, move from a no to a yes, so that you can start to pursue your dreams at prime rates. That's what Operation Hope is doing. We're 1,500 offices across the country, the largest in the country. Tell them I sent you. They'll give you a $1,000 coaching scholarship. Do not waste it. Use it up for 12 months. Tell them I sent you. That's number one. Number two, and everybody needs to do that. Everybody needs a financial coach. I've got a financial coach at Operation Hope. Number two, follow me on social. Follow Ryan Holtz on social. Follow people who are making smart sexy. This is a new movement from the streets to the suite, from civil rights to silver rights. This is a moment in history. This is the third Reconstruction, and you're sitting in a moment in history. So watch how you live your life. It may be the only Bible that anybody else reads. Who you follow, what you model matters. We model what we see. So follow Ryan, follow me, follow people you admire, you respect, who embody who you want to be. Listen to my podcast, Money and Wealth. It's top 50 for entrepreneurship in the country. And listen to Ryan's. And be the change you want to see in the world, and make smart sexy again. We've got that. It's not like black folks and brown folks. We tried capitalism and free enterprise as a way to get out of bondage and all of our problems. And it's not like we tried it and we screwed it up or it screwed up. We never tried it. We tried the government. We tried social justice. We tried civil rights. We tried the human dignity. We tried morals alone. Those things alone have not worked. For 6,000 years, we've mastered culture and cool, but not commerce and capitalism. What would happen if we took it where the rules are published and the playing field is level? In professional sports, we killed it. In the arts, we've killed it. In faith, we've killed it. Not, no pun intended, but I mean, we, as an institution, we understood how that works. In politics, we've killed it. What would happen if we decide to obsess on capitalism and free enterprise and talk about not Black Lives Matter, but Black capitalists matter? What would happen if we decide to become absolutely lethal experts, ninjas, economic ninjas, capitalists, capitalism is a gladiator sport, capitalist gladiators? What would happen if we master this game? No drama, no ego, no raising your voice, no flossing, none of that. You just walk in the room and everybody just sits down and listens because they know you're the best at what you do. I mean, why aren't we known as Chinese? You see somebody Chinese, you see somebody Indian, there's a presumption. Oh, they must be good at engineering, or must be good at technical skills or trade. There's a presumption. You see somebody Jewish, you have a presumption about they must be good at X, Y, and Z. Black folks, it should not be, oh, they must be, you see in business class on a plane, that must be an entertainer. That must be are you a lawyer for an athlete? No, I'm an entrepreneur. What? That should be normal. And so let's make this normal at scale.
That just goes back, man. I remember when I was in high school, I just turned 40, but I remember all junior high school, I used to walk around calling myself an entrepreneur. And all the teachers used to be like, yo, man, what's going on with that? It's in my yearbook. But I'm like, it's a gladiator sport. And there's no limit. There's no limit. There's no age limit. There's no cap. Like, you can go as far as you want to go with it. Listen, man, you are what you eat, but you are the company you keep. Today, you are a great company to be in. I appreciate you. Everybody who's listened to the show, hit the 5 stars, smash it. Thank you for making us global top 1% on the planet and having guests like John on who are doing the do and doing it well. John, if I can just get you to say, my name's John Hope Bryant. I was just on the Ryan Holtz Show.
This is John Hope Bryant. I've been on the Ryan Holtz Show.
We're so glad you enjoyed this episode of the Ryan Holtz Show podcast. Please don't forget to smash that 5-star review, as Team Holtz will love you for it. Also, say hi to Ryan anywhere on social media using the handle @RyanHoltz1. That's RyanHoltz1. And if you or your business is looking to expand your brand, book a brand jam with Ryan using the link in the show notes.